You've seen the documentaries, you've listened to the podcast, but some true crime cases are so bizarre, so unbelievable that even Netflix passed on them. Not because they weren't real, but because no one would believe they were. Today, we're going deep into the cases that are stranger than fiction. The man who faked his own death. Twice, John Darwin was a British man who in 2002 paddled a canoe into the North Sea and simply disappeared. His wife, Anne, collected the life insurance. His sons held a funeral. The police closed the case. And John Darwin moved into the house next door to his grieving family through a connecting door for 5 years. He lived there, hidden, while his wife visited him daily. The whole scheme unraveled in 2007 when John walked into a London police station claiming to have amnesia. Investigators found a photo of him and Anne smiling in Panama, where they had been planning to start a new life. Both were convicted of fraud. The strangest part, his own sons had no idea their father was alive and living just meters away for half a decade. The serial killer who was also a clown. John Wayne Gacy hosted neighborhood parties in Chicago, dressed as Pogo the Clown for local children's events, and was considered a well-respected member of his community. Between 1972 and 1978, he murdered at least 33 young men and boys, burying most of them in the crawlspace beneath his house. When police first searched his home, they smelled something odd but left without digging. It was only on a second search that investigators discovered the horror underneath. Gacy's double life was so complete that neighbors, co-workers, and local politicians had all praised him publicly. He had even been photographed with First Lady Rosalind Carter. The clown costume, the community charm, the buried victims. It reads like a horror screenplay, but it was devastatingly real. The woman who lived in a man's attic for a year. This story is widely circulated online, but there is no reliable police record, court case, or credible Japanese news report confirming an incident in 2008, matching these exact details, or a person named Tatsuo Mishima connected to such a discovery. The narrative closely resembles a category of urban legends and internet horror stories often referred to as hidden squatter or attic dweller tales. These stories typically follow a similar structure. Someone notices minor disturbances, missing food, noises, or electricity changes, so installs cameras and discovers a stranger secretly living inside their home for an extended period without detection. While compelling, these accounts frequently originate from fiction forums, creepypasta communities, or heavily distorted retellings rather than documented criminal cases. That said, real-world incidents of illegal occupation of homes, squatting, do exist in many countries, including Japan, but they are typically discovered relatively quickly and involve abandoned buildings or short-term intrusion rather than someone secretly living inside an occupied home for months unnoticed. Verified cases almost always involve clear legal records, eviction procedures, and police documentation. The poisoner who kept a diary of everything, Graham Young was a British teenager who was obsessed with poisons. Specifically, with testing them on real people. He began by poisoning his own family, including his stepmother, who died. He was caught at age 14, diagnosed as dangerous, and sent to Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital. Doctors declared him cured after 9 years and released him. Within months, he had taken a job at a factory and began poisoning his coworkers, carefully recording the effects in a detailed diary. 2 coworkers died. Several others were left with permanent health damage. When police searched his home, they found the diary with precise notes, doses, symptoms, timelines. Young seemed genuinely proud of his records. He was convicted and sent back to prison, where he died in 1990. His story is less about violence and more about the terrifying patience of someone who treated human suffering as a science experiment. Awesome, the town that went mad, all at once. In 1962, in the town of Kashasha in what was then Tanganyika, now Tanzania, an unusual outbreak began at a girls' boarding school. It started with a few students experiencing sudden, uncontrollable laughter, which then spread rapidly to others. Within days, the situation escalated to the point where dozens of students were affected, experiencing not only laughter but also crying, anxiety, and episodes of fainting. As the situation disrupted school life, the institution was eventually forced to close. However, the phenomenon did not end there. When students returned to their home villages, similar episodes began appearing in other communities. Over the following months, reports suggest that hundreds of people were affected in waves of symptoms that included laughter, panic, Oh, and physical exhaustion. The disruption became so widespread that several schools in the region temporarily shut down. After investigations, researchers concluded that the event was not caused by any infectious disease, toxin, or environmental factor. Instead, it was classified as a case of mass psychogenic illness, where psychological stress spreads through social groups and manifests in physical symptoms. In this case, it is believed that the pressures of school life, social anxiety, and emotional contagion played a major role. The Kashasha outbreak remains one of the most well-known examples of this phenomenon, often cited in psychology and sociology as evidence of how strongly human emotions and behaviors can spread within tightly connected communities even without any physical cause. Not the detective who was also the killer. In 2012, a Russian police officer named Mikhail Popkov was convicted of murdering 22 women over a period stretching from the 1990s into the 2000s. What made the case unusual was that Popkov had spent years working alongside the detectives who were trying to catch him. He participated in meetings about the case. He helped analyze crime scenes. He offered suggestions. He had access to investigative files and was trusted by colleagues. It was only through DNA testing on a wide group of officers that he was finally caught. After his conviction, he confessed to even more killings, bringing the total to over 80, making him one of Russia's most prolific serial killers. The idea of a killer hunting with the hunters is terrifying enough, but the fact that it went on for so long and inside a police department makes it something else entirely. The girl who survived her own murder. In 1986, a young woman named Penny Bjornson was brutally attacked while jogging on a Wisconsin beach. She identified her attacker, a man named Stephen Avery, and he was convicted and spent 18 years in prison. Then DNA evidence cleared him completely. He had not been the attacker, but here is where the story takes a darker turn. 2 years after Avery's exoneration, while he was in the middle of suing the county for wrongful conviction, he was arrested again, this time for the murder of a young photographer named Teresa Halbach. His case became the subject of the Netflix documentary Making a Murderer, but the original victim, Penny, lived through something most people never think about. She had put an innocent man in prison for nearly 2 decades, not out of malice, but because human memory is far less reliable than we are taught to believe. True crime isn't always about monsters in the dark. Sometimes it's about the ordinary-looking man next door, the trusted coworker, or the invisible flaw in human memory that destroys lives quietly. These cases didn't make it into slick documentaries because they're too uncomfortable. They don't give us clear villains or satisfying endings. They give us questions. And sometimes those questions are the scariest part of all. If you found this video unsettling in the best way, subscribe and hit the bell. There are plenty more cases where these came from. Drop a comment below telling me which case shocked you the most. I'll see you in the next one.